Toto, we sit here just a few weeks after the team has made history. How do you reflect on everything Mercedes have done over these last 7 years?
I think the run for 7 consecutive titles is not something that we would have imagined as ever being possible. The all-time record in Formula One from Ferrari, doing it 6 times in a row with Michael Schumacher, was something that was unprecedented. And also in the wider sports world, it is very difficult to find so many consecutive victories. But whilst you're in there, you just don't realize that you are on a path different to what you normally see with fluctuations between teams' performances. But yeah, I would have never imagined that at the beginning of 2014 that we could do that.
It's very rare in any walk of life that when someone has so much success that there isn't an amount of negativity that comes from their peers towards them when they've had so much success. And yet within this paddock and in this sport, Mercedes and everything you've achieved is met with, I think, admiration throughout this pit lane. What are the overriding principles, you think, of this team and of its success that makes it so admired?
I think we're just the good guys. We've learned from the past. In any circumstance, you need to avoid a sense of entitlement and stay humble. And with all of us, it's that we always see the next loss just around the corner. And that permanent skepticism and fear of losing is something that just drives us all the time. But not taking it for granted is I think, a good mindset to keep pushing the boundaries, because we think we're just never good enough. Now, I really dislike the kids in school that were the best in class. They said, I really got the test wrong, and then again they had perfect marks, and they really annoyed me. So this is not about talking us down. This is really what we believe or what we don't believe, that it's just not good enough.
Lewis talked a lot about how he was bullied at school and sort of feeling like he didn't fit in for a lot of his life. You talk about not liking the kids at school that had the success. They were the captains in the sports team. Is there an element of that throughout that team, of, as you say, like not taking it for granted, but also constantly striving to be better, but never to think you're better?
Yeah, I think that is part of the team now. You can't say that everybody in there has been bullied, but certainly for very different reasons. When I look at Lewis and myself, there is trauma in childhood or growing up as a teenager, and there was humiliation, and there was a sense of never just being good enough. And I think that drives oneself to kind of overcome this old feeling, and it certainly makes you push more maybe than others, but it also makes you a little bit more miserable. So finding the balance is important.
Is that why you take it so personally?
You mean losing or
winning?
Yes, I think that it's a very personal thing. Losing is a humiliation, but more it's about not meeting my expectations. I honestly don't care what others say, but it's just a standard that I set more for myself, and which I always seem to not get to. And that is. But I have to create a better balance in my life, certainly in the future.
I want to get to that in a minute, but first, you came to this team at a part where it had already been started to be created, to be built. Nicky and Ross had kind of laid those foundations. It could probably be said that you built the walls, you built the castle on those foundations. But what did you find, and how solid were those foundations?
A success of a team is never down to one person. Certainly not in a Formula One team. And what I found was, like you say, there were foundations. Ross has done a good job in recruiting key people, and what was lacking when I came there was a disconnect between the English operation and the German structure, and not the right communication. I think that Stuttgart was never aware that there was a lack of funding, and this disconnect translated itself into every part of the organization. Communication, sponsorship. There was always a certain skepticism towards the other headquarter, and this is something where I just lay everything open on the table. And I said, what's the expectation for the team? And the answer was, well, winning the championship, because this is the team that we bought in 2009, and this is where we expect Mercedes to be. And I said, okay, then I'm at Williams on the same budgets, and my expectation is finishing 5th or 6th. So one of us must be wrong. And the conclusion was that the team was simply underfinanced. And one thing is for sure: when you're underfinanced, you're not going to win. If you have the same budget, there is still no guarantee that you're going to win, because it needs time and the right people. So I was pretty open about that.
That takes massive certainty, massive strength of character to turn around to Mercedes and to say, this is what we need, and actually you guys have got it wrong.
But it also takes massive strength from the decision makers in Mercedes. I remember having this conversation with Dieter Zetsche, who was the CEO back then, and Wolfgang Bernhard, who was massively involved, and the head of finance, Bodo Uber, and they took it for fair value. They said, okay, what do we need to do in order to be successful? And they took the risk. They trusted me, somebody that they didn't know, and it brought us back on the right track. And my background is finance. I know how to analyze companies. So when they allowed me to look into it, beyond the lack of financial resources, there were other gaps that were there, and they said, okay, just go for it, do it.
You said at the time it was the best or nothing was the catchphrase for Mercedes, wasn't it?
Yeah, the best or nothing. They could have decided to leave the sport, nothing, and say we entered the sport based on the wrong assumption, or the wrong assumptions that have been sold to us. Because in a way, they are selling cars. It's a 350,000 people organization. They can't deep dive into an F1 team or go for the best. And there was no guarantee for the best. But here we sit, 7 World Championship titles later, and I still can't believe it.
We talk about the best. You have possibly the best of all time as your lead driver. You have a very special relationship with Lewis. Was that immediate between you two, or did you have to work at it?
No, that was not immediate. I think we were pretty open with each other straight from the get-go. We joined the team at the same time. But it took a few years to really establish that amount of trust. And we went through some difficult patches, but they all contributed to the strong bond that we have today. We are talking to each other. There's lots of transparent communications. Nothing is being left on the table. We don't go home annoyed on each other, but we talk about it immediately. Sometimes we agree to disagree, but at the end we share our core objectives, and this is winning championships.
You talk about being transparent. I just learned, I didn't know that when Nico and Lewis were at the team together, and when you came into the team, you spoke to Alain Prost about what had gone wrong at McLaren, what he'd learned from that scenario, and how that actually influenced the way in which you dealt with those two.
Yeah, that was a really important discussion for me, because Alain Prost is the biggest politician of all, and I mean, he's seriously good at that, and even today at Renault I see that. But even he couldn't understand or couldn't influence the team's alignment to the drivers. And McLaren was fantastic in their days, but what I have learned is you have to be transparent with the drivers. There mustn't be any favoritism. Drivers are very sensitive. When they feel that something's going against them, and even if it's just some the way people talk to them or don't talk to them, it can let them go off the rail, and this is something I always avoided. always fair treatment.
You talk about transparency. I think openness seems to be something that has really defined your leadership of this team as well. It seems a very friendly place to be. You seem to be somebody that your people can come and talk to at any moment. Does this feel more like a family?
There is a lot of camaraderie, I would call it. When I had a weird situation in 2015, I moved to the UK, living in Oxford until today. And on 12th of January is my birthday. And my wife Susie said, so who do you want to invite? And the only people I could imagine inviting were my close confidant of the team. And we ended up having a dinner with 10 or more colleagues of mine with their wives, and that shows how close we were straight from the get-go. And I have a real interest in the people. I like to spend a lot of time with them, understanding their struggles, their worries, and also what motivates and challenges them. And we care for each other in the team, and I think this is being felt. But it's not all schmoozing, and we are also happy with each other. There's also a way of coping with pressure. It's a safe environment. We have no hire and fire policy. We don't blame each other. It can be heated, and that's very important, diversity of opinion. But it never leads to a situation where we fall out with each other. If we fall out, that has been at the beginning. That means the characters didn't fit to each other. And we have a sport psychologist in the team called Kerry Evans, who is also the sport psychologist for the All Blacks. And one of the mottos of the All Blacks is no dickheads. And we kind of took that philosophy to us as well.
Finally then, on the weekend that you won that 7th World Championship, you said that you were now looking for the future, that lockdown had given you a presence of mind, a real vision of where you wanted your life to go, and that you were searching for your replacement, for your successor. When will the end now come? And will it involve, I can't imagine you wanting to leave this family.
I don't want to leave the team, because the team has become such an important part of my life and of my business activities. It's the most important thing I do, and I am incredibly proud to be a co-owner with Daimler. And we get on with each other. We meet each other on eye level, and whatever I decide for the future, I will always stay a part of the team and a shareholder of the team. But I also am pretty realistic about shelf lives, and we had that with technical positions in the past, and now it's about the team principle. How long can you be as effective, as good as you have been at the beginning? How long does your energy last? And with 500 hours in airplanes every year and 250 hotel nights, nobody can tell me that they can go forever. If somebody thinks that, then they don't realize that their performance drops. And it's not allowed. You can become from great to very good, but that's a drop in performance. And I don't want to ever come to this point. And that's why I'll do it for a while until I find somebody that can be a better team principal than I am, and then let him take over, do it his or her way, and move up, sit at home with the intercom on, and in the sense of no blame culture, blame everybody at the track, whilst having my coffee.
Many congratulations, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Will.